Hey, what's up, guys? I want to do another interesting color grading tutorial for you. Many of you liked my previous tutorial, and I decided to make one more for you to explain a couple tools a little better. And for this, we're going to be looking at this clip of the guy digging inside the car. It's the same thing. It's been shot on Blackmagic pocket camera. I shot it raw, and today I'm going to show you a slightly little different approach on the color grading from my previous tutorial. So let's get started. Okay, so here goes the first node, and as you can see, it's log. It's pretty desaturated. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create another node, another serial node. I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna choose 3D LUT that comes with Davinci Resolve. That way all of you guys have it and we can work on the same page. Okay, and this is usually my normal work process. This is how I mostly grade my footage. Okay, so this I'm gonna change label and I'm gonna call it LUT, and I'm not even gonna mess with this. Okay, so let's create a serial node, and immediately I'm gonna turn into the parallel node. Okay, and as in my previous tutorial, we're gonna make this one exposure, and for this one we can actually make it exposure plus color. That way we don't need 100 nodes over here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do in this node, we are going to go to the curves, and I'm just gonna bring up brightness a little bit because I don't like how everything is very crushed right now, as you can see over here, just like in my previous tutorial. So I'm gonna lift it up a little bit. Okay, like that looks great. And you know what, this thing is like on my way. Let's see, waveform, let's just have this thing in the corner. That way it's gonna be a little bit easier to work. That way you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, and let's bring down highlights. Okay, like that looks pretty good to me, pretty neutral. And for the color, we're gonna do classic red, green, and blue channels separately. And this is gonna be our starting point. The image looks pretty clean to me, so let's start working from here. What I'm gonna do in the next node, actually before we're gonna start, I'm gonna use a very cool plugin that's called False Colors, and you can download it from timepixels.com. It's amazing plugin. If you guys don't have a professional grading monitor, this thing is a lifesaver, and I'm gonna show you how it works. Okay, so I drop it over here. This basically emulates the false colors, and over here you can see you want to call it brightness levels from 0 to 100. The skin tone's supposed to be somewhere between, I would say, 40 to 60. Some people argue whatever the right number is, but this is where they should be normally. And based on that plugin, what I can tell that right now, this part of the car, the red part of the car, is very hot. Like, it's very overexposed. So let's bring it down a little bit before we're going to continue with our grades. I'm going to shut this thing down for a little bit. And in the next node, I'm going to draw a little mask, a costume mask. Let's see. Just like this. Nothing fancy, very sloppy actually. Okay. And I'm gonna track it down, make sure everything stays. I'm gonna track it backwards. I'm gonna show you in a second what am I doing this thing for. Okay, sorry, it's a little bit slow because I'm having recording at the same time. Okay, so it looks like it's holding up pretty well. So now I can go back to the mask and add a little bit softness to it. Okay, so this is, oops, that's a little bit too much. Let's do it like this. Okay, so that looks great. And now I'm gonna bring down a little bit of exposure. Oops, go to the normal wheels. We're gonna bring it down slightly. Look, before and after. And if you're gonna take a look on this thing, on the false colors, you can actually see exactly what's going on. Just like that. We're gonna keep the highlights nice and healthy. Okay, so let's take a look. Before and after. You see how it made image more balanced now? So we're gonna call this car balance. Okay, let's create another node, and we're gonna start working on building the look. So right click, and we're gonna call this look 1, and I'm gonna tell you in a second why we're calling it look 1. Alright, so let's say I want to do a very nice teal and orange look, and let's break it down. Here we have skin tones. So the skin tones located somewhere around, I would say 45. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me zoom in. So somewhere in between 45 to 55 we have skin tones. Everything else looks pretty good. It looks pretty dark. So I know that safely I can work between, I would say, 15 to 35% in making my look. So how we're gonna translate into resolve? Well, that's why we have the log over here. In the log, we have low range and high range. In the low range, we're gonna put 0.150. That's gonna mean that we're working in the 15%. And high, we're gonna put 35. So 0.350. So what does that mean? Check it out. Let's disable this thing. Anything that I'm gonna do in the log between 150 and 135 is gonna be affected, and everything else gonna stay as it is. Check this out. See? The skin tones stays as it should be. See that? So I can start making my look like this. So let's say we're doing teal and orange, okay? So let's push it slightly into teal. Let's see. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Let's create, and by the way, I'm doing teal and orange look very sloppy. I'm actually going to have a special dedicated tutorial how to properly do a real teal and orange look, okay? So let's create another node, and we're going to call this look 2, and because I'm working in a parallel node, all those things that I'm doing, they're actually being mixed together. So by working on this, I'm not really affecting this. They're all being mixed. And in the look 2, I'm going to do exactly the same number, 150 here and 350 over here. And this midtone, I'm just going to put a little bit more towards green. That way it's going to add slightly more teal look. Okay? So let's turn those things off and you're going to see the difference. Okay, that before and that is after. Okay, so here we have it. And here's the reason, by the way, and if you guys watched my first tutorial, I suggested always do denoise in the first node. And here's why you should always denoise in the first node, in my opinion. If you're gonna zoom in, we're gonna see a bunch of crazy stuff going on his face. You see that crazy noise? It's like blue, and we're gonna see a little bit red. So when we're gonna go in the first node, and you're gonna see a huge difference right now, we're gonna put the same number like I did in my first tutorial. We're gonna put 2 for Luma and 10 for Chroma, and check it out at the difference. Look at that, before and after. And this is why you should always denoise in the first node. Always work with the cleanest possible footage. See that? Before and after. Okay, look. I don't know if the compression over the YouTube gonna let you see it, but it's pretty huge difference. Okay, so we got our look. What else can we do? Well, let's put all those things here. Let's see. In my opinion, I think his skin, his arm is a little bit too orange to my taste. I think it kind of stands out really weird. So let's create another node, and we're gonna call this arm, and I'm gonna desaturate only the warm colors. And the easy way to do this, if we're gonna go to the hue versus saturation tab right over here, and we're gonna select with a picker average color, let's say this, we're gonna see how it affecting just the warm tones. And if you want to make more smoother gradient, all you have to do just make those things a little bit wider. That way the transition is going to be, see, you can make a custom curve if you like. Transition is going to be way smoother than just having spot on dot. And I'm actually going to show you what's going to happen if you're only going to have hardcore dot. Let's see, let's make it very narrow. You see that? You see that blob over here? This is why you always want to have a nice gradient transition. That way, blob like this, I don't know if you can see it, not gonna ruin your picture. Okay, so let's reset it. And even though it actually looks like a scar, a little different color, but you're getting the point. Let me show you again. Let's see. Let's make super saturated and make it super tiny. Like this. Okay, I don't know if you can see the difference, but there's a little blobs over here of saturated areas. Okay, so once you're gonna start spreading this, it looks very nice. Look at the elbow. See? Okay, so back to the agenda, like that. Bring it down a little bit. Okay, so that looks better. Very nice. Okay, we're not done yet. So now that everything kind of looks nice and neutral and we have a little look built, I'm gonna go back to the car and I'm gonna add a little bit of blue color to it, just like that. Okay, and let's take a look at our mask. We can add one more point here and probably here and here. We can make it a little bit better. Okay, look at that. Look at the difference. Let me turn this thing off. You see that? Huge difference. So always remember, work with the mask. Okay, and finally, what we can see that the shadows are really not balanced that well. So, as in my previous tutorial, I'm going to create another node. We're going to call it shadows and luma versus saturation. Same curve like before. And let's check it out. Before and after. You see that? Before and after. And if you want to make your blacks a little bit more deeper, all you have to do is just go to the log. Let's see, about 128, and it's going to affect only the bottom part. Before and after. Okay, let's take a look. let me delete that thing so I can show you what we've done. Okay, that was a starting image, and that is the end result. Obviously, like I was showing in a previous tutorial, everything depends on what your goal is. I mean, if this would be a car commercial, obviously the approach to this would be completely different. But let's say we want to add a little bit extra value to it. And let's add, I think this round mask gonna do it, to the engine, just like that. And as I was showing you before, let's see, let's increase it, midtones, add a little bit contrast. Okay, let's see, that looks really good. Look before and after. And I guarantee you, in many cases, unless you show people before and after, the client most likely will never be able to tell that there's some kind of extra light manipulation, there's trickery with the power masks. So it's a very good way of keeping things in focus for the audience. Okay, let's drag this thing forward. Okay, so take a look. Before and after. Before and after. Huge difference. Absolutely huge difference. So keep that trick in mind. And finally, let's see, what else can we do? If you want to have a little bit, I would say, edgy style and make slightly little pop, I guess, to the highlights, we can create another node, and we can go here to the qualifier, select luminance, and let's see. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, like that looks good. Let's shrink a little bit highlights. Okay, I think like that is fine. Okay, like that is great. And very nice soft edge. And we can go to the curves. And watch this. Let's say we're gonna give a nice little pop to the bright highlights. You see the difference? Look, before and after. Before and after. Again, this is purely stylized decision. It's up to you guys. Just showing you a different things you can do with the grading. And finally, as I did in my previous tutorial, we can add a little bit of sharpening to the whole thing. I'm gonna go to the sharpen. Oops. A little bit more than I should, but that way you guys can see it. Look, before and after. It's pretty nice. You can do that to pretty much every part of the node. For example, if the engine is really matters, let's say you're doing documentary on a car, you can actually do a really cool trick, and both light versions and obviously full versions have that. If you go to the mid-tone details and you're gonna crank it up, look at that. Let me reset that and do it again. Look, this is the 0 value, and this is 100. You see a huge difference there. Look at that. So always remember a couple of those tricks. Okay, and I really hope you guys like this tutorial. I'm gonna be making more stuff. I'm sorry about being a little bit random. I'm not preparing any of that in advance. I'm just going along and try to pretty much think as, I guess, grading it from the very beginning rather than having everything prepared and, you know, being very generic about it. So stay tuned, subscribe, and I'm going to be releasing more stuff soon. Thank you for watching.